In our first two editing videos, we looked at the ways in which the experiments done by the filmmakers at the Kuleshov workshop led to the theory concerning the effects of movie editing on our interpretation of movie images, known as the Kuleshov effect. In this video, we're going to look at the second principle of the Kuleshov effect, which concerns the ways in which movie editing can be used to both shape and manipulate the audience's perceptions of screen time and screen space. In the first Kuleshov workshop experiment, which was discussed in our first editing video, a series of 3 images was edited together. While the second shot in the series was altered to create different sets of images, the first and third shot were the same shots of the same man looking into the camera. These 2 shots were actually the same shot repeated twice, so the exact same shot of the man's face filmed at the exact same moment in time, which was used for both the first and the third shots in the sequence of all of these different sets of images. When viewing the shots in this order, however, audiences perceived a slight passage of time between the first and the third shot, so that they interpreted the images as presenting a sort of before and after depiction of the man looking at the object in the second shot, where the first shot represents him registering the sight of the object, and the last shot represents his reaction after seeing it. Interpreting the third shot as a reaction shot rests on the perception of a brief passage of time between the first and the third shot, represented by the edits that both join them to the second shot and separate them from one another with that second shot. This demonstrates the ways in which, just as editing can be used to organize movie plots in terms of cause and effect when it comes to plot events, they can also be used to organize the chronology of those events. Because of this, movie editing is one of the elements of film form that helps us to keep track of the temporal order of the film, regardless of whether the plot events are presented in chronological or non-chronological order. Likewise, editing can be, and frequently is, used to shape our perception of the passage of time in relation to the events that we see playing out on screen. We see an example of this last function of editing in this series of shots that make up a scene from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that depicts the passage of time overnight. We understand this passage of time not only through the changes in the lighting and the activities the characters are engaged in within the shots, but also through our assumption based on these changes that the edit between the second and the third shot signifies a gap in time. At the same time, the third shot in this sequence of shots not only helps to reorient our sense of screen time, the amount of story time covered by the plot events that we see unfolding on screen, but it also serves to keep us oriented in terms of the setting of this scene. Both the first shot and the third shot are establishing shots, shots that are used to establish the setting for the scene that follows. When editing is used to pair the first shot with the second shot, and then again to pair the third shot with the fourth shot, the edits serve to establish screen space by indicating that what we see in the second and fourth shots are the interior spaces of the building that we see from the outside in the first and the third shots. This scene then demonstrates what we might think of as the second principle of the Kuleshov effect, which concerns the ways in which editing can be used to shape our perceptions of both screen time and screen space. Not only that, but because editing is routinely used to do this in movies, this principle also underpins the additional use of movie editing to create spatial and temporal relationships on film that do not exist in the real world. We see an example of this in the movie Knives Out. In our discussion of production design, we looked at the way in which many of the interior scenes set in Harlan Thrombey's home in this film were shot on location at the Ames Mansion in Easton, Massachusetts. There are several scenes in this movie that also take place just outside the house, in the driveway and on the grounds surrounding it. All of those exterior scenes were actually filmed in an entirely different location, using a different house for the outside shots of the Thrombey home, so that the rooms inside the house in the film are actually located inside an entirely different house that is in an entirely different neighborhood, and also in an entirely different town in real life. Moreover, Harlan's study, which is located on the top floor of the house, is not a room that exists in either real-world location, but instead was constructed on a soundstage inside a movie studio. In this film, then, we have a single location and a single space represented by the house and the grounds surrounding it that only exists within the world of the film, and that is made up of 3 separate places that are actually geographically separated from one another in the real world. Likewise, in the same way that shots of characters entering the house from outside are edited together with shots of them arriving inside, and shots of characters walking up the stairs are followed by scenes that take place in the study at the top of the house in order to suggest a single contiguous space, the edits between these shots also provide us with a sense of the continuous and uninterrupted passage of time, in spite of the fact that the 2 shots that represent this one continuous action were not only filmed in different places, but also on different days, and with a significant gap in time in terms of when they were filmed between the start of the action depicted in the first shot and the completion of that action depicted in the second shot. This ability of editing to orient us in terms of screen space within scenes, even when that space is fragmented across several different shots filmed from different camera positions and using different types of framing, is the result of a specific system for film editing known as continuity editing. It is primarily continuity editing techniques, in fact, that are used in movies to help audiences keep track of the passage of time between shots and between scenes, as well as to keep track of where characters are in relationship to each other, and also in relationship to the larger environment around them, even when we don't see them all on screen together at the same time. Our next video is going to take a more in-depth look at continuity editing, as well as looking at another editing technique that is also used to shape audience perceptions of the passage of screen time, elliptical editing.